I opened my husband's suitcase and found a pristine bottle of massage oil alongside a receipt for a romantic getaway. I didn't say a word. I just quietly replaced it with fiery hot chili sauce that burns like hell. And what happened next turned the entire hotel into chaos, with police filing a report that very night. I'm so glad you're here. If you're watching this video, please hit like, subscribe to my channel, and let me know in the comments where you're hearing my revenge story from. I sat at the kitchen table. The silence in the house was thick as morning fog, a silence that had become an uninvited guest, ever present. The old clock on the wall, a wedding gift from my late mother, ticked with an unrelenting, accusing rhythm. Each tick was a painful reminder of a life I was beginning to suspect was a carefully crafted, beautiful lie. For over 20 years, I had believed Daniel was a family man, a devoted husband, a loving father. But these recent weekends, when he vanished with business trips as an excuse, had become a habit that left me sleepless for nights. Every time I heard the door close on Friday afternoons, it felt like he was locking the air out of the house, leaving me and our 2 kids with a growing void that couldn't be filled. I used to tell myself that his job demanded it, that I was just an overly sensitive wife. But then, small details hit me like slaps. A faint lipstick smudge on his shirt collar, which he brushed off as accidentally touching a colleague's document bag, the cloying scent of cheap perfume I'd never worn. Messages erased from his phone as if they'd never existed. I sat there, staring at the empty chair across the dining table where he should have been, my heart heavy, as if someone had placed a boulder on my chest. I remembered family dinners years ago, when laughter filled this kitchen, when we shared dreams and hopes. Now, each tick of the clock was a knife slicing me away from those memories. Daniel would come home early Monday mornings, looking fresh and oddly full of energy, unlike the exhausted facade he put on when leaving. I caught the glint in his eyes, a fleeting smile, and wondered, was that the face of a man working hard for his family, or of someone who'd just enjoyed a secret getaway in another's arms? I no longer found peace in my husband's embrace, and instead, the silence of the kitchen became a terrifying companion. I knew, somewhere behind the closed curtains and neatly packed suitcases, a truth was waiting for me to face. And though I had no solid proof yet, my heart whispered the answer. This marriage was no longer a home, but an empty box echoing with the sound of deceit. I heard the water running in the bathroom, steady and carefree, as if Daniel didn't know each second under the shower was another cut to my heart. I stood in the bedroom, staring at his suitcase neatly placed at the foot of the bed. It was like a loyal soldier, always ready to follow its master out of this house every Friday afternoon. My heart pounded, part from fear of doing something wrong, part from a gut feeling that the suitcase held the truth I could no longer avoid. I bent down, unzipping it slowly, as if each centimeter of the zipper's sound could wake the neighborhood. Inside, shirts were neatly folded, ties rolled into tight spirals, brand new underwear still with tags. I sighed. This wasn't the luggage of a busy businessman, but of someone preparing for a romantic escape. In the right compartment, I saw a small paper box. My hands trembled as I opened it. A bottle of vanilla-scented massage oil appeared, so new the bottle gleamed untouched by any smudge. The light reflecting off its surface stung my eyes. I'd never bought this for Daniel, and he'd certainly never cared for such luxuries in our married life. A cold chill ran down my spine. I dug further and found a folded piece of paper. Opening it, I nearly choked. A receipt clearly printed with romantic suite, Blossom Motel. Check-in Saturday, 7 p.m. Below were 2 servings of champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries, and a rose petal bed service. I sank onto the edge of the bed, hands shaking, eyes glued to each word as if they were fateful carvings on a tombstone. Romantic suite, I muttered, voice choking. Not a standard room, not a business meeting, but a room designed for lovers or betrayers. The water in the bathroom kept running, oblivious, steady, like a soundtrack to my collapse. I recalled the countless times Daniel left home looking serious, claiming urgent meetings or important clients waiting. I used to worry for him, prepare late dinners, so he could eat hot food when he returned. Turns out, while I sat watching the clock tick, waiting for him. He was planning chocolate-covered strawberries for someone else. I forced myself to stand, carefully placing the receipt back, screwing the massage oil cap tight, arranging everything as it was. I knew if I slipped up and let him notice, I'd lose my chance to expose him. As I zipped the suitcase shut, it felt like sealing a vile secret. Stepping out of the room, I gripped the wall to keep from sobbing, but tears came anyway, hot, soaking my cheeks. I wasn't crying from mere pain, but from humiliation. 20 years of fidelity, building a family, and he'd turned it all into a play where I was just a minor, forgettable role. When Daniel emerged, hair wet, towel around his waist, he glanced at me at the vanity. "You okay? You look tired," he said casually, tying his towel and checking his phone. I forced a smile, replying curtly, "Fine, just a headache." He nodded, not asking further, then turned to the suitcase, sliding it near the door as if afraid to forget it. That gesture confirmed this trip had nothing to do with work. That night, I lay beside him, but couldn't sleep. His steady breathing, once a comfort, now sounded like mocking laughter. I thought of the massage oil in the suitcase, the romantic sweet receipt, and felt a piece of my soul tear apart. I recalled a joking remark he once made, "I like steamy nights." I bit my lip to stifle a sob. If he wanted steamy, I vowed silently, he'd soon experience a heat he could never imagine. For years, I'd endured his absences, convincing myself his job was more important than my loneliness, but no more. The shock of that suitcase had turned suspicion into truth. I didn't need to wonder where he went, what he did. The evidence was right in my house, steps away. I knew, from this moment, I was no longer the gentle, patient Clara. A different flame flickered in my heart, not love, but a smoldering, fierce fire of revenge. I couldn't sleep that entire night. Each time I closed my eyes, the gleaming massage oil bottle and the romantic sweet receipt flashed like a blaring red warning light. Daniel's steady snores echoed beside me, a mocking tune, each breath pounding my temples. I lay still, eyes wide on the ceiling, a question swirling. How many lies had he woven to hide this betrayal, and how naive had I been? The next morning, as Daniel left in a crisp suit, I sat at the dining table, coffee cup trembling in my hand. He planted a quick kiss on my cheek, leaving a whiff of unfamiliar cologne, then grabbed his suitcase like always. The door closed, and the house felt lighter but chillingly cold. I downed the last of the cold coffee, took a deep breath, and told myself it was time to follow his lies. I started with the receipt. Blossom Motel was printed clearly at the top. I grabbed my phone, hesitated, then dialed the front desk number. "Blossom Motel, how can I assist you?" A woman's tired voice answered. I cleared my throat, staying calm. "Can you tell me if Daniel Roberts has a reservation tonight?" A brief pause. Then cautiously, "Yes, he's a regular, but I can't share booking details." Regular. Those two words knotted my heart. Not a one-time thing, not a fluke, but a habit. A repeated chain of betrayals. I thanked her curtly, hung up, my hands shaking so much I nearly dropped the phone. I checked his wallet, where he kept membership cards and old receipts. Within seconds, I found a pale yellow plastic card with a peach blossom logo, Blossom Motel Rewards member. They'd even given him a loyalty card. I gave a bitter laugh, the sound catching in my throat. So he wasn't just cheating, he was cheating systematically. With perks, with points. Searching for more clues, I opened my laptop, logged into Facebook. I scrolled through Daniel's tagged photos from recent months, and there, in a seemingly innocent picture posted by an old friend, I spotted a detail behind him. On an advertising wall was a logo of a shop just 2 blocks from the Blossom Motel. I zoomed in, and there was no doubt. That night, Daniel had told me he was in Dallas for a client, but the photo's check-in showed a local bar near the motel. I sat frozen, hands clutching my head. Memories flooded back, puzzle pieces snapping into place. Anniversary nights when he had urgent meetings and vanished. Kids' birthdays when he rushed off for early flights. Family vacations canceled last minute because clients changed schedules. His clients weren't big companies. They were a faceless mistress. I looked around the house, at family photos, frozen smiles, fake embraces. In each frame, I suddenly saw myself as a fool, a backdrop to Daniel's staged happiness. I felt sick, my heart wrenching, but a different fire smoldered in my chest, rage. At noon, I sat with a close neighbor, pretending to chat casually. She let slip, "Clara, last week I saw Daniel driving toward Route 5, where those motels are. I thought he was taking a client somewhere." I forced a smile, thanked her, but inside I trembled. Even the neighbors saw, while I was blind. That evening, when Daniel called to say, "I'm stuck in a meeting, I'll be late," I opened Google Maps, tracing the route to the Blossom Motel. I sat in my car, parked a few hundred meters away, heart pounding. The neon sign flashed pink, and in the lot, I saw his familiar sedan. That moment, suspicion became undeniable truth. I needed no more excuses. He'd lied, betrayed, and disrespected me. Back home, I sat in the kitchen, yellow light casting over my pale face. I recalled every time he looked me in the eye and swore, "I only love you." Now I understood. Those were just lines in a cheap play, where I was an unwilling audience. But unlike other spectators, I wouldn't applaud the end. I'd rewrite the finale. Daniel's lies were no longer hidden. I'd traced every clue, from the motel loyalty card, to the Facebook photo, to the neighbor's offhand remark. They lined up, waiting to be exposed. I knew this was just the start, and if he wanted steamy nights in cheap rooms, I'd give him a heat 100 times worse, one he'd never forget, and never hide. I returned home late, my mind buzzing like a swarm of bees. The three pieces, receipt, motel card, Daniel's car parked boldly at the Blossom, left no room for doubt. I was no longer the naive wife asking, "Where are you?" I knew exactly where he was, what he was doing, and with whom. I sat at the familiar kitchen table, the cold afternoon coffee, still untouched. Yellow light bathed the worn walls, and I felt like I stood at a crossroads. One path led to tears, begging, pleading for forgiveness. The other, a path I'd never dared consider, flickered in my mind, a fiery revenge that made me shiver. For 20 years, I'd chosen patience. I forgave late nights, made excuses to the kids, swallowed tears when I smelled strange scents on his clothes. But not this time. This time I was no longer weak Clara. I recalled his smug grin as he left with his prepared suitcase. In that suitcase, beside shirts and ties, was the gleaming massage oil, a brazen symbol of betrayal. It sparked a bold idea. If Daniel wanted steamy, I'd give him an unforgettable heat. The idea struck like lightning. Swap the massage oil in his suitcase, but not with fake oil or harmless water, with something that would make him pay instantly. I opened the spice cabinet, eyes scanning the glass jars. Then I saw it, a bottle of pure chili sauce from an Asian store, so potent a single drop could burn for hours. I picked it up, shook it lightly, the thick red liquid clinging to the bottle like a smoldering flame waiting to ignite. In that moment, I knew I'd found my weapon. My heart pounded, but my hands were strangely calm. I grabbed a small funnel, carefully opened the massage oil bottle. The cloying vanilla scent rose, making me nauseous. I poured it all down the sink, each stream washing away years of deception. Then I slowly poured the chili sauce in, red drops filling the clear bottle, blending and taking over. When it was full, I wiped the rim clean, screwed the cap tight. From the outside, it looked pristine, untouched, no hint of tampering. I smiled, a cold smile I'd never seen on my own face. Just then, I heard my daughter's footsteps on the stairs. She rubbed her eyes, asking, "What are you doing, Mom?" My heart leapt, the swapped bottle still in hand. I hid it behind my back, pretending to wash a glass. "Couldn't sleep, just making tea, sweetie. Go back to bed." She yawned and returned upstairs, leaving me to exhale in relief. My plan nearly unraveled at the first step, but that moment only hardened my resolve. This was my secret, and I'd protect it to the end. I placed the special oil back in the suitcase, rearranging the shirts and ties exactly as they were. I stared at the suitcase, picturing Daniel confidently opening it at the motel, holding the bottle, smirking at his mistress. I imagined the moment they used it, followed by screams tearing through the romantic room. The scene brought both pain and satisfaction, as if the scales of justice were finally tipping my way. That night, I lay beside Daniel, listening to his steady breathing, but in my mind, a different play was being staged, a carefully choreographed revenge. I didn't just want his skin to burn, I wanted his dignity, his carefully curated image to burn before the world. I wanted his lies exposed, not just to me, but to everyone. The next morning, I woke early, brewing coffee as usual. Daniel came down, looking busy, tying his tie, checking emails. He glanced at me, gave a faint smile. Gotta go early today. Clients waiting. I looked at him, nodded, hiding the fire blazing behind my eyes. As he grabbed his suitcase, I said softly, "Have a steamy trip." He turned, frowning. "What'd you say?" I smiled. "Nothing. Go." The door closed, leaving me alone in the familiar kitchen. But this time, the silence wasn't heavy. It was like the hush before fireworks, full of anticipation and excitement. I knew I'd set the first gear of a revenge machine in motion, and soon, Daniel would pull the trigger himself. Daniel appeared at the stairs on Saturday morning, in a dark blue suit, polished shoes, and the smile I knew all too well, the forced one for outsiders, but he used it on his own wife. He pulled the suitcase prepared from the night before, checking the zipper one more time, as if afraid something inside was out of place. I sat at the kitchen table, twirling my coffee cup, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're leaving early?" Daniel planted a quick kiss on my cheek, his breath minty to mask something spicier, and said in his usual tone, "Client wants to meet at 10 a.m. Don't wait up for dinner. I might be late." I looked straight into his eyes, where the gaze dodged like a child hiding a stolen toy. A wave surged inside me, but my face held a gentle smile. "Yeah, drive safe." He turned and headed for the door, gripping the suitcase handle tightly. To me, that suitcase was no longer an inanimate object. It was like a talking witness, a coffin holding dark truths. I nearly laughed thinking about what awaited him at the Blossom Motel. The massage oil bottle, now turned into a spicy trap, ready to scorch his fake pride. Suddenly, Daniel stopped, rummaging in his pocket and frowning. "Where are the car keys?" My heart skipped. If he opened the suitcase to look, I'd be exposed. I stayed silent, pretending not to notice, just sipping coffee. He scanned the living room, finally sighing in relief at the keys on the shoe rack. I felt like I'd dodged an earthquake. Daniel chuckled lightly, turning back. "I'm getting old, so forgetful." I tilted my head, replying, "Maybe you're just too busy." Inside, a thought stung. Busy indeed, but not with work. He pushed the door open and stepped out. Morning light flooded in, illuminating my face, and the sly smile I couldn't suppress. He glanced back, still composed. "I'm off. Don't worry." I nodded, my farewell laced with irony. He didn't catch. "Have a really steamy trip." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "What'd you say?" I shook my head, feigning absent-mindedness. "Nothing. Hurry, or you'll be late." He shrugged, unsuspecting, and walked out completely. The door shut, leaving the familiar silence. But this time, it didn't weigh on my chest. Instead, I felt like I'd just set up a chessboard, and the opponent had made the first move as predicted. I took another sip of coffee, hearing the car engine roar in the driveway. The tires rolled away, fading into silence. In the house, only me and our two still sleeping kids remained. I exhaled deeply, knowing the crucial moment was approaching. I stood, wandering the house, touching familiar items, the dining table, family photo frames, the faded sofa. These once symbolized happiness, now evidence of prolonged deceit. But the pain no longer felled me. It became fuel, feeding the smoldering revenge fire within. I pictured Daniel and his mistress entering the rose-filled room, opening the suitcase, smiling at the gleaming massage oil. Then, minutes later, screams shattering the romantic sighs. That image made me chuckle softly. A laugh, even I found unfamiliar. I knew this was just the prelude. Daniel's humiliation wouldn't just be the burning sensation on his skin, but the moment he was exposed to the world. The so-called successful family man would soon burst like a soap bubble in harsh sunlight. And I, the woman who once quietly cleaned betrayal stains, would now author the finale he'd never suspect. I will write. Part 6. The Night of Disaster at the Motel. About 1,500 words, continuing seamlessly from Part 5. The content will focus on the scene of Daniel and his mistress entering the hotel, preparing for a romantic evening, then the disaster occurring when they use the massage oil bottle that Clara swapped with fiery hot chili sauce. Daniel drove the sleek black sedan into the Blossom Motel parking lot, where pinkish-purple neon lights flickered in the night, like a veil hiding the filth beneath the romantic facade. The evening was slightly chilly, seemingly peaceful, but the air thick with deceit. He turned off the engine, adjusted his tie in the rearview mirror, ran a hand through his hair once more. In Daniel's eyes, this was a perfect date. Wife at home, trusting, kids unsuspecting, and a young, hot mistress waiting in a rose-strewn room. The girl, named Marissa, waited in the lobby. Her tight red dress hugged her body, lips boldly painted, eyes glancing at him with desire and confidence. Seeing Daniel enter, she smiled, voice soft but loaded. "You're here. I was afraid your wife held you back." Daniel laughed, arm around her waist. "She trusts me completely. Tonight, it's just you and me." They passed the front desk. The clerk glanced, then looked away, pretending to type. To her, this was routine. A middle-aged man in a suit, escorting a young woman to the romantic suite. No questions, no need to know. At Blossom, everything stayed secret, unless the secret exploded itself. Room 207 opened. Soft golden light spilled out. Bed with crisp white sheets. Table with champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries. Rose scent lingered. Marissa squealed softly. "Perfect." Daniel wheeled the suitcase in, set it at the bed's foot, inwardly praising his preparation. He kissed her, lips smeared with lipstick, then whispered, "Wait a sec, I have a special gift for tonight." He opened the suitcase. Neatly inside, shirts, ties, and the gleaming massage oil bottle. Daniel lifted it like a treasure, shook it lightly, eyes smug. Marissa giggled, climbing onto the bed, stretching like a cat awaiting strokes. "What kind of oil?" she asked, voice honey-sweet. "Vanilla massage oil. It'll make you feel steamy." Daniel emphasized steamy, with a knowing grin. He poured some into his palm. The viscous liquid glistened under the light. Daniel rubbed his hands, then leaned down, caressing Marissa's smooth skin. At first, she shivered pleasurably, but seconds later, her eyes widened, lips quivering. A hiss escaped. "Daniel, it's too hot." Nah. He froze, burning spread across his palms. His face flushed, sweat instant. What is this?" he yelled, staring at his reddened hands, then at Marissa writhing on the bed, her skin turning fiery pink, blotchy like burns. In moments, the room filled with screams. Marissa bolted off the bed, crying and shouting, "Oh God, it burns. My skin's on fire. Water. I need water." Daniel jumped up, grabbing a towel to wipe, but rubbing only intensified the blaze across his hands. The sweet scene turned chaos. Bed messed, sheets scattered, moans echoing into the hall. Nearby couples peeked out, curious, then horrified. "What's going on?" a man whispered. "Sounds like an acid attack," a woman replied, voice trembling. Hotel staff immediately called police, reporting serious assault. They didn't know the culprit wasn't acid, but a massage oil bottle full of fiery chili sauce. In the room, Daniel dashed around, finding bottled water, splashing his hands, but it only spread the burn. Marissa rolled on the floor, red dress clinging, lipstick smeared, screaming until hoarse. Her cries echoed down the hall, drawing a curious crowd outside. "Is someone being murdered?" one asked. "Don't know, but they're yelling hot, burning skin," another said. Daniel finally wrapped a towel around his waist, yanked the door open, bursting into the hall with Marissa, both in hotel blankets, faces beet red, sweat and tears, mixing, running and yelling. "Help, we're burning! Give us water!" The sight stunned the hall for seconds, then exploded into laughter, jeers and raised phones recording. Under pinkish purple neon, Daniel and his mistress, looked like two lunatics hit by karma. Within 10 minutes, police and firefighters arrived. Thinking chemical attack, they came in gear. Medics rushed, spraying rinses. But instead of acid, they quickly realized it was chili. A firefighter couldn't hold back, chuckling, "Holy crap, it's just hot sauce. Who puts hot sauce in massage oil?" Laughter spread, engulfing the crowd. Daniel and Marissa wailed, begged, dignity gone. A guest filmed, shouting, "Hottest couple of the year." In agony, Daniel clung to pride, yelling, "Stop filming. This is private," but efforts futile. Video already spreading before it ended. Marissa, blanket wrapped around her flushed body, screamed, "Daniel, I can't take it. I'll sue you." He turned, face contorted in pain. "Shut up. Don't say anything." But the hall, the hotel, even live viewers on TikTok heard it all. Meanwhile, across town, Clara sat on the sofa, phone in hand, screen lighting with notifications. A friend sent the video. "Clara, look, is that your husband? It's everywhere." Clara turned on sound, screams, laughter, sirens echoed. Then Daniel, blanket-clad, face red, yelling, "Water, water." Clear as day, Clara pursed her lips, eyes cold gleam. Inside, the chilly fire blazed, not just scorching Daniel's pious mask, but turning him into a public joke. The door to room 207 slammed open, and Daniel with Marissa burst out in an unimaginable state, both hastily wrapped in thin hotel blankets, faces flushed, bodies blotchy with pink burns. They staggered down the hall, screaming for help like they were being burned alive. "Help! My skin's burning! Give us water!" Daniel yelled, voice hoarse, eyes bulging wildly. "Oh God, it burns so much! I can't take it!" Marissa screamed, tears mixing with black mascara streaks down her cheeks, making her look like a disaster painting. Doors along the hall flew open. Couples, strangers, heads poked out, first thinking fire, then realizing the horrific yet ridiculous sight. A middle-aged man with a protruding belly under the blanket, and a young woman in disheveled red dress, clinging and wailing desperately. Instantly, whispers, head shakes, then giggles spread. A young guy laughed dryly. "Lord, is this an 18-plus comedy?" Another woman pulled her phone. Seconds later, lens aimed at Daniel and Marissa, capturing every twitch, every cry. Daniel noticed, yelling, "Stop filming. This is private." But the more he shouted, the more attention. Phones multiplied, flashes blinking, laughter growing. Marissa rolled on the carpet, bare feet kicking wildly, blanket slipping, forcing her to yank it in panic. "Water! I need water! Please!" her voice cracking. Hotel staff finally arrived with a bucket of cold water, but splashing only spread the chili, burning worse. Daniel bellowed, eyes rolling. "Oh God, even worse. Who did this to me?" An elderly guest stood arms crossed, smirking. "Maybe you get what you deserve." Laughter erupted, crisp, merciless. Police arrived, two uniformed officers charging the hall. Thinking chemical attack, they shouted, "Back up, not safe." But seconds of observation, the distinct chili scent hit, making one sneeze, face wrinkling. "Lord, it's just chili sauce." Crowd burst laughing. Some relieved sighs, others doubled over. A guy yelled, "Hot chili couple. Steamy yet?" Hall roared with mockery. Daniel writhed, hands raw red blanket clutched, pain and shame mixing. He yelled, "Stop filming. I'll sue everyone." But laughter, chatter, camera clicks drowned him. Marissa nearly fainted, leaning on wall, mascara in black streaks like a clown. A woman whispered to a friend, "That girl's definitely not his wife. Looks like a student with her teacher." Words spread. Disgusting. Stealing someone's husband. Chaos intensified. Staff called ambulance. But before arrival, Daniel and Marissa became social media fodder. A teen live-streamed caption shaking, "Caught cheating couple on fire." Literally, views surged, comments flooding. "Oh God, they're screaming from chili oil? Karma's a bitch. Hits fast. Someone give them milk. Water won't help." Daniel looked around, phones high, crowd eyes like daggers to his ego. He'd been respected, at least pretend family pillar to neighbors. colleagues. Now, nothing but flushed body, wailing mistress, mocking crowd. "Oh Lord, get me out," Daniel screamed, but police waved, telling staff wait for medics. Another officer whispered, 10 years on the job, never seen such humiliation. Ambulance arrived, medics wrapping hasty bandages, but Daniel and Marissa escorted out, bodies in thin blankets, moaning and hiding faces, ignited more laughter. Someone yelled, "Say cheese," snapping away. In that moment, Daniel knew career, image, all shattered. But what he didn't know. Across town, Clara watched on her phone, savoring every humiliating second. Just hours after the ambulance took Daniel and Marissa from Blossom Motel, the video of them blanket-wrapped running the hall flooded the internet, starting as short clips on TikTok captioned, "Couple on fire," literally, but soon spreading like wildfire in dry woods. Shares, comments, memes, upbeat music overlays turned Daniel's private disaster into a global joke fest. Comments piled, "Someone give them milk. Water won't cut it. This is the real meaning of hot dates. Does he look like my gym teacher?" Each word a needle to Daniel's shredded pride. His blanket hug, red-faced water, "Give me water," became a soundbite, remixed for thousands of clips. People mimicked screams, pretended splashing water, bursting, laughing. Not just TikTok, Facebook and Twitter exploded. #HotChiliCouple topped regional trends. Screenshot of Daniel kneeling face in hands, Marissa crying behind, memed into soda ads, fake action posters, tabloids jumped in, successful businessman exposed in sensitive clip with mistress at local motel, sensational headlines hit sites next morning. No details needed. Video and vague blurbs drew viewers. Daniel's company couldn't ignore. Emergency meeting. Board viewed video. Issued, Mr. Daniel Roberts, suspended pending internal investigation. Hours earlier, respected manager, now colleagues joke. Leaked internal emails, showed shares with laughing emojis. Marissa unscathed. No. Instagram anonymous attacks. Husband stealer. No hot now. Switched to comedy acting. Her red dress post compared to blanket crying hall scene. Contrast fueled ridicule. At the other end of the city, Clara sat in the living room, the phone screen's glow illuminating her calm face. Her best friend sent a flurry of clips, accompanied by laughing emojis. Clara watched, clicking through each one, letting Daniel's screams echo through the room. But instead of pain, a cold satisfaction surged within her. For years, he had built an image of the perfect husband, the exemplary father. Now, in one night, it all crumbled before the world. Clara knew this was just the beginning. The social media storm was only the first wave. The next would come from the community, friends, neighbors, acquaintances, and most importantly, their own small family. She pictured Daniel walking into work, met with sneaky glances, stifled laughter. She imagined family gatherings, where someone whispered about his business trip, sparking table-wide chuckles. Each scenario was like sweet nectar, soothing the wounds Clara had endured for years. Daniel must be tearing his hair out, trying to stop the storm. But the internet never sleeps, and once a story becomes public ridicule, no one can erase it. What happened at Blossom Motel would haunt him, replayed, chewed over, until he couldn't dare show his face in public. Clara closed her phone, leaned back in the chair, and shut her eyes. In her mind echoed a line Daniel had once said with pride, "I like steamy nights." Now, he'd gotten just that, a night searing to the bone, not just on his skin, but across social media, where thousands mocked him in unison. And that was only the start. The social media storm raged all the next day, but in the familiar kitchen, I sat quietly before the laptop screen, my face eerily calm. Outsiders might think I was in shock, crying, or smashing things in jealousy. But no, I'd moved past the shock long ago. Now, I was clear-headed, icy, and knew exactly what to do. My phone buzzed. A message from a friend who worked as a receptionist at a hotel near Blossom. "Clara, you'll definitely need this." I opened the attachment. It was a security camera copy, clearly showing Daniel running in a blanket like a madman, Marissa crying, and stumbling barefoot behind. I turned on the sound, hearing the screams of water, "Give me water," and the echoing laughter. The video was longer than anything shared online, more detailed, unedited. I saved it to a USB, naming the file evidence_1. Before I could leave my seat, another email arrived. A police report from the local precinct. They documented the Blossom incident, noting suspected chemical assault, later confirmed chili extract. I read each line, lips curling into a faint smile. An official report, signed and stamped. Without me saying a word, the black and white paper told Daniel's humiliating story. I printed a copy, placed it neatly in a hard folder, and tucked it into a drawer. That night, I kept searching. I scoured Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, downloading dozens of videos, screenshots, mocking comments. I gathered them all, organizing by timestamp. Evidence_2, evidence_3, evidence_4. Each file was a mirror reflecting the truth. Daniel didn't just betray me, he disgraced himself before society. For a moment, I paused, staring at the glowing screen. The memes, the mocking lines, reminded me of all the times I swallowed tears when he left for work, leaving me alone with our 2 kids. Now the scales had tipped. He was the one the world laughed at. The next morning, I met Mrs. Peterson, the elderly neighbor, who'd lived next door for decades. As I entered, she looked up from her sofa, eyes curious but sympathetic. "Clara, I've seen it all. The whole neighborhood's talking, but I think you need this more." She handed me a small USB. I recorded the kids' live stream. It's clearer than the online clips. I gripped the USB tightly, throat tight, whispering, Thank you for standing by me." Back home, I opened the wooden cabinet, pulling out an old tin box once used for my late mother's postcards. Now it became my war chest. I placed the USB, police report, printed video stills, and photos inside. Each time I added evidence, I marked the date clearly in red pen. Blossom Motel, 9:15 p.m. Daniel and mistress, caught blanket wrapped, begging for help. The note was like an epitaph on our marriage's tombstone. That evening, when Daniel came home, haggard, skin still red from burns, I was already in the living room. He didn't know that in the cabinet behind me, a mountain of evidence was piling up, ready for the courtroom. He spoke softly. "Clara, I know you've seen it online. I can explain." I smiled, calmly pouring tea, but didn't reply. In my mind, one thought echoed. You don't need to explain. The evidence speaks for you. That night, I locked the study door, opened my laptop, and emailed my longtime lawyer. Subject, divorce, with evidence. I attached a few initial files, writing briefly, "We need to meet soon. I have all the evidence of my husband's infidelity and public scandal. I want to start proceedings." I hit send, feeling my heart calmer than ever. In the dark, I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Everything had flipped. For years, Daniel lied, treating me like a clueless fool. But now, I held the power. He didn't know every step, every humiliating scream from that motel night was now ammunition I'd stored. When the time was ripe, I'd fire. And once I did, nothing could save him. I closed the tin box, hid it in the drawer, the key hanging at my chest like a reminder. From now on, I was no longer the desperate waiting wife. I was the scribe, the keeper, and soon, the judge of this marriage. I couldn't sleep that night, but not from pain. My heart was still as a lake, covered in a thin layer of ice. In the drawer, the tin box of evidence lay quiet like a timed bomb. I knew Daniel would return eventually, and when he did, I'd sit here, calmly watching, letting him perform his pitiful act. Near midnight, the front door creaked. I heard heavy footsteps, dragging on the wooden floor, then keys clattering like from someone too weak to hold them. I didn't move. Still at the kitchen table, yellow light casting over the cold tea, Daniel appeared in the doorway, and for a moment, I barely recognized the man. His skin was blotchy red, especially on his arms and neck, eyes dazed, face disheveled, suit crumpled, no trace of elegance. He shuffled in, collapsing into the chair across, panting like he'd run a marathon. His voice, hoarse and trembling. "Clara, you must have seen it all online. I can explain." I lifted my tea, sipped, set it down, silent. My eyes held a coldness he'd never seen. Daniel lowered his head, hands shaking, clasped together. He rambled, pleading. It was just a mistake. I was seduced. You know, work stress. I slipped. I swear. She means nothing. You're the only one I love. I gave a faint, hollow laugh that echoed in the quiet kitchen. Mistake. I recalled the romantic suite receipt, the Blossom Motel loyalty card, the video of him blanket-wrapped screaming, "Give me water," on TikTok. Not a fleeting lapse, a habit, a system of lies. I stayed silent, eyes piercing his masks. Daniel looked up, seeing my silence, growing frantic. He dropped to his knees by the table, grabbing for my hand. "Clara, please, don't leave me. I'll change. I'll cut her off. I'll delete her number. Everything. I just need you." I pulled my hand back, slowly, placing it on the table. Delete her number? I thought, lips twitching. Delete a number. But how do you delete thousands of videos, millions of clicks, mocking you out there? Then, a small sound from the stairs. Our son, Andrew, 16, stood with a stunned look. He'd heard everything. Daniel turned, face pale, stammering. "Andrew, Dad only." But the boy cut him off, voice colder than I expected. "I don't care. I just see a coward." Those words were a fatal stab. Daniel crumpled fully to the floor, mouth moving soundlessly. I looked at my son, seeing no respect left for his father. That moment, I knew Daniel had lost the last precious thing. I stood, placed a hand on Andrew's shoulder, whispering, "Go to your room. Let me handle this." Andrew nodded, walking away silently, but his eyes stayed fixed on the kneeling man, as if to burn the image into memory. Alone again, Daniel sobbed, tears, snot mixing, like a tantrum-throwing child. He repeated, I'm sorry. I crossed my arms, finally speaking, voice even and cold. "Daniel, you think an apology can erase it all? The receipt, the motel card, the online videos, all just mistakes." He looked up, eyes red, stammering, I don't know how it happened. Maybe someone set me up." I laughed softly, a whip-like laugh cracking across his face. "Set you up? Who? The police? Hotel staff? Or the thousands sharing your video online?" Daniel choked, speechless. He gasped, clutching his head, trembling. "I'm begging you, don't divorce me. I'll do anything. We have kids, a home." I stepped closer, whispering in his ear, "You burned it all with your own hands. There's nothing left to save." Daniel collapsed, sobbing, but to me it wasn't true remorse, just fear of losing what he saw as power. That night, I left him there. Entering my study, I opened the tin box, gazing at the USBs and printed evidence. They gleamed under the desk lamp like silver bullets. I knew Daniel's begging was just the prelude. The legal battle ahead was the fight I awaited. The next morning, with the sun barely up, I sat in my study, the tin box of evidence neatly on the desk. I opened it, pulling each item out, arranging them like cards in a deadly game. Security video from the hotel, police report, USB with the live stream, and dozens of viral memes, all ready. Last night, Daniel crawled home, knelt, begged, but I knew if I softened, he'd lie again tomorrow, as if nothing happened. I needed a clean cut, and the law was my blade. I called my lawyer, Catherine Hughes, a sharp, cold woman in her 50s, who'd helped many women reclaim everything after betrayals. She agreed to meet that morning at her office. I carried the box, feeling like a warrior with weapons in hand. Catherine's office was in a small red brick building, glass doors gleaming. As I entered, she looked at me with a firm gaze. "Clara, I read your email. Show me everything." I opened the box, presenting each piece. Catherine watched the video of Daniel blanket-wrapped, face contorted in pain, Marissa screaming for help. She read the police report, frowning at suspected chemical assault, later confirmed chili extract. Seeing the viral memes, her lips curled into a cold smile. "This isn't just infidelity, Clara. It's public humiliation. In court, you have the upper hand." I nodded, silent. Catherine continued, "We'll file for divorce with clear evidence of infidelity, requesting full custody. I'll demand most assets, at least 70%. With what's circulating online, Daniel can't fight back. His reputation's gone. I listened, feeling the storm finally easing. But Catherine wasn't done. Prepare yourself. Men like Daniel don't give up easily. He might counter, claim you're jealous, unstable. But trust me, with this evidence, he can't win. I sighed, recalling his pathetic state last night. I could picture Daniel calling someone, hiring a lawyer, scrambling to salvage. As Catherine said, he'd fight back, but my bullets were loaded. Catherine, I said, voice calm, I don't just want a divorce. I want him to lose everything. I want it public, so he can't face anyone again. She nodded. Then we'll play to the end. As I left the office, the midday sun poured down the street. I held the file in my hand, feeling an odd lightness. For years, I'd bowed my head, endured. Now, I was the one in control. Daniel could cry and beg, but the law wouldn't listen to his lies. That afternoon, Daniel called, voice panicked. Clara, I've talked to a lawyer. I'll prove you're obsessed, blindly jealous. I won't let you take everything. I smiled, replying calmly. Go ahead and try, but remember, the whole world saw you at Blossom Motel. You gonna tell them you were hypnotized? Silence on the other end. I heard his ragged breathing, then he hung up. I knew it was the sound of a man staring into the abyss beneath his feet. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table, yellow light casting over freshly printed divorce papers. I signed my name, each stroke deliberate. Outside, wind whistled through the door cracks, like a prelude to the legal storm coming. This time, I wasn't afraid. I was ready to unleash thunder on Daniel's life, to make him see betrayal always has a price. The divorce hearing was set for a cold autumn morning. I woke early, sky still dim, fog blanketing the windows. In the mirror, I saw my face, no more tear streaks, just calm, resolute eyes. I wore a simple navy dress, a pale gray scarf tied at my neck. No need for fancy jewelry. My strength today wasn't in my appearance, but in the evidence and truth I carried. At the courthouse, my heart beat fast, not from fear, but from knowing the final moment had come. The courtroom was packed. Tabloid reporters crowded the hallway, curious neighbors sneaking in. Daniel's scandal had spread so far, everyone wanted to see the endgame. Inside, cold light streamed through high windows. Dark wooden benches smelled of pine resin, the judge's gavel ready on its stand. I sat at the plaintiff's bench, lawyer Catherine Hughes beside me, her face steely. Across, Daniel appeared with a young, tense lawyer. He wore an old gray suit, tie askew, hair hastily combed. He avoided my gaze, shoulders slumped. The man who once stood tall was now a frail shadow. The judge banged the gavel, voice stern. The hearing between Clara Roberts and Daniel Roberts begins. Catherine rose first, voice low, clear. Your Honor, my client Clara lived 20 years of marriage blindly trusting her husband. That trust was shattered by undeniable evidence of betrayal. Motel receipts, a Blossom Motel membership card, videos viral across social media. Not only did Daniel commit adultery, he turned their family into a public joke, deeply harming their 2 children. We request full custody for Clara and 70% of the assets. She turned on a large screen. The video played Daniel blanket-wrapped, running down the hall, Marissa wailing, "Water! Give me water!" Echoing. The room stirred, stifled chuckles breaking out. Despite attempts to stay quiet, the judge banged the gavel for order. But the truth was clear, shocking, and mocked. Catherine showed the police report, suspected chemical assault, later confirmed chili extract, a clear red stamp, then screenshots of memes, #hot chili couple trending. The honor of a father, a husband, meant to be a role model, is now a global laughingstock. Daniel's lawyer stood, voice straining for calm. Your Honor, this was a setup. My client is a victim. Someone tampered with the massage oil. Clara, driven by jealousy, had motive and means. We asked to dismiss social media evidence as easily manipulated. I couldn't hold back, letting out a soft laugh. It echoed, sharp as a blade. Daniel bowed his head, and Catherine fired back. Your Honor, if this was a trap, why did Daniel have a Blossom Motel rewards card with 4 bookings in 3 months? Why was a romantic sweets receipt with champagne and strawberries in his suitcase? If it's coincidence, it's the rarest one in the world. Laughter erupted from the audience. The judge snapped, "Order." But the truth was too obvious. Catherine called a witness, a Blossom Motel receptionist. Under oath, she confirmed Daniel Roberts regularly booked the romantic suite. I recognized him multiple times, always with the same young woman. Her words landed like a hammer. Daniel trembling, lips pressed tight. His lawyer tried to salvage. My client's image was misused. The witness could be mistaken. The judge cut in, with clear video and a membership card. That argument isn't convincing. Daniel suddenly stood, shouting, "Clara, you did this. You ruined me. The gavel slammed. "Mr. Roberts, sit down. This is a courtroom, not a street market." I looked straight into his eyes, calmly saying, "I didn't ruin you. You did that yourself." The room fell into heavy silence. Daniel slumped back, eyes red, hands clenched, shaking. Catherine closed firmly. "Your Honor, no more words are needed. The evidence is clear. A cheating husband, a father who shamed his children. Clara deserves protection, custody, and the majority of the assets she worked to build." The hearing dragged on nearly 2 hours with Daniel's weak defenses, each one only highlighting his desperation. Finally, the judge delivered the verdict, voice booming like a tolling bell. After reviewing all evidence, the court grants Clara Roberts full custody. Assets are divided 70% to Clara, 30% to Daniel Roberts. Case closed. The gavel struck, resounding in me like a chime of freedom. I closed my eyes, breathing deeply. The weight crushing my chest for years was gone. Daniel sat motionless, eyes vacant on the table. The man who called himself the family pillar was now a defeated shell, wifeless, childless, honorless. He couldn't speak. I stood, gathered my files, and walked out of the courtroom, head high. In the hall, Catherine patted my shoulder, voice steady. "You won, Clara, and you won big." Behind me, I heard the wooden chair creak. Daniel stayed seated, head bowed, no fight left. The once proud man was a living corpse, burned by his own truth. I descended the courthouse steps, autumn wind tossing my hair. Outside, reporters aimed cameras, neighbors nodded quietly. They'd seen the video, heard the story, and now saw the woman emerging victorious. I gave a faint, serene smile. I knew I'd reclaimed my life. After the verdict, I left the courtroom with the mindset of someone closing an old chapter and opening a new one. But for Daniel, it was just the start of his hell. 2 days later, his company issued a statement: "Daniel Roberts is no longer a manager at our company, effective immediately." I heard from an old friend in HR. She said the board held an emergency meeting post-hearing. The Blossom Motel video had become office gossip. There was no hiding it. A senior manager called Hot Chili Guy online. No company could stomach that. News of Daniel's firing spread fast. Neighbors looked at him differently. Some smirked as he passed. Others turned away as if avoiding contamination. Kids in the neighborhood mimicked his blanket-wrapped run, yelling, "Water, water," and giggling. From the kitchen window, I saw it, feeling both heartache for the innocent kids and cold realization. Daniel sowed his own shame. Friends turned away too. Couples we dined with stopped inviting him. Online, a few men tried defending him, saying men make mistakes. But hundreds of comments shot back. "Mistake? What about the suitcase and 4 romantic suite bookings?" Defenses drowned in mockery. Marissa, his mistress, vanished. I heard she locked her accounts, moved from her rented apartment, and left town. Rumors said her family learned everything, and shame drove her away. Daniel lost not just his wife, kids, and job, but the mistress he'd traded it all for. The house felt emptier. He lived in a cramped rented apartment downtown but sometimes drove by our old street, hoping to see the kids. Andrew, my son, refused to meet him. He said flatly, "I don't want to see him." That cut deepest, I knew. For Daniel, a job could be found, friends replaced, but losing his son's respect was forever. One afternoon, I got a handwritten letter from Daniel. His writing shook. "Clara, I know you won. I've lost everything. But please, let me see the kids. At least once a week. Don't take everything." I folded it, calm. I didn't hate him enough to block him from the kids forever, but I didn't forget what he did. I forwarded the letter to Catherine for supervised visitation handling. While Daniel sank into disgrace, my life changed. My bakery, built over years, suddenly thrived. People came not just for the cakes, but to see the woman who stood against betrayal. Neighbors, once casual greeters, now bought pastries and whispered, "Clara, you did right. We're proud." I smiled humbly, but inside, a new pride smoldered. I got invites from women's community groups, wanting my story as proof no one must endure betrayal silently. I shared with a sardonic smile. He wanted a steamy night, and I gave him one he'll never forget. The room laughed, but behind it were empathetic, admiring eyes. While the community lifted me, Daniel sank into solitude. A friend saw him in a cheap bar, drinking alone, face gaunt, hands still red from burns. When someone recognized him as hot chili guy, laughter erupted, and he fled, never returning. His once prestigious name became synonymous with shame. Daniel had nothing left. For me, that was final justice. I knew I couldn't erase lost years, lonely nights waiting, or the pain my kids endured. But seeing Daniel fall under his own choices' weight, I knew I'd reclaimed what mattered: control, freedom, pride. After the legal storm and social media frenzy, one morning, I stepped out of the bakery and saw the sky clearer. Early winter air was cold, but I no longer felt the biting chill of past months. My heart lightened, like a stone lifted after 20 years. Daniel vanished from my orbit, and I started anew, from the kitchen and oven I'd built. My bakery was busier than ever. Neighborhood women came for flan, sweet rolls, whispering, "This is the shop of the brave woman." I heard, smiled, not boasting, but pride flared inside. I wasn't just Clara, the betrayed wife, but Clara, reborn from ashes. Andrew moved in with me permanently. At first quiet, he slowly smiled again. He helped sweep the shop, check inventory, even learned to brew coffee for customers. One evening, over dinner, he hesitated. "Mom, I want to stay with you long term. I don't want you to be alone." I held his hand, tears falling, but happy ones. Despite Daniel's betrayal, I had my son's love and companionship. I gave myself new chances. I joined a community cooking club, meeting women with their own stories. We shared, laughed, cried, taught new recipes. When I brought golden flan, they clapped. "Clara, it's amazing. Teach us your secret." I laughed, heart warmed. It had been ages since I felt such genuine connection. Weekends, I returned to church. Sitting in the multicolored light from stained glass, I prayed, not for Daniel's return or punishment, but for strength for me and my kids, for peace I'd lost. Each time I opened my eyes, seeing light glow on my hands, I felt lighter. Mrs. Peterson, the neighbor who helped with evidence, became a close companion. We walked the park evenings, talking neighbors, family. She said, "The whole town talks about you, Clara. They call you the Steel Woman." I laughed. Not steel, just a woman tired of lies. But deep down, I knew I was stronger than ever. Daniel lived on meagerly in a cheap rented apartment. Someone saw him carrying cheap beer, looking broken. People no longer said his name with respect. They knew him as Hot Chili Guy. That nickname scarred him for life. I didn't care much anymore. He was the past. I didn't need more revenge. Reality had done it for me. I started making time for myself, something I'd forgotten for 20 years. Morning yoga, breathing, calming my mind. I bought new books, sat at cafes, sipped, read. I even got a shorter, neater, younger haircut. In the mirror I saw a new Clara, not defined by marriage, but by myself. A local reporter visited the bakery, asking to share my story. I smiled, declined. I didn't need more attention. I just wanted a peaceful life with my shop, kids, and reclaimed freedom. But before he left, I said half-jokingly, he wanted a steamy night, and I gave him one for life. The reporter laughed, nodding. That's headline-worthy. Each evening, after closing the shop, Andrew and I sat in the kitchen. We ate simple meals, sometimes just bread and hot soup, but the warmth was unmatched. Andrew shared school stories, volunteer firefighting. I shared customer tales, Those small moments were true happiness. I realized rebirth wasn't becoming someone else. It was picking up the pieces, shaping a stronger, brighter self. I didn't need Daniel to define my worth. I defined it with my son's smile, the bakery's sweet aroma, and the peace in my heart. One weekend evening, I joined old friends at a small cafe. Golden light bathed the wooden table, wine glasses, shimmering. Laughter filled the air, but they waited for my story, the one the town wouldn't stop discussing. Clara, a friend, leaned in, eyes curious and admiring. Tell us everything. The massage oil swap, was it real? I sipped wine, letting its tartness linger, then smiled. Real as it gets. I swapped it myself. The table erupted, laughter, and claps. Another friend howled. God, I watched that video 10 times and still can't believe it. Who'd think you'd come up with that? I recounted briefly. The suitcase, romantic sweet receipt, cloying massage oil, and chili sauce I poured in. They listened, eyes wide, bursting into laughter as I described Daniel and his mistress blanket wrapped, screaming for help. The laughter echoed through the cafe, making strangers turn and smile, clueless but amused. A friend sighed. Clara, the whole town calls you the spicy woman. I laughed, raising my glass. Fine by me. I don't mind. The mood settled when another asked, more serious, Clara, any regrets about the revenge? I stared into my wine, light reflecting like a small flame, then answered curtly,
Ooh.
if I hadn't, I'd still be the cheated wife. I didn't want to live as a victim. I wanted to end it my way. My words silenced the table for a moment, then nods of agreement. I knew they understood. Each had their own quiet pains, just hadn't had the chance to rise like I did. As the gathering ended, we left with laughter still echoing. On the way home, the cool night breeze blew, and I looked up at the star-filled sky. Gone were the choking resentment and bitterness. In their place was calm, a deep tranquility I'd never felt before. I knew life still held challenges, but now, I no longer trembled at betrayal. I'd learned to defend myself, to reclaim justice, and most importantly, to laugh in the face of adversity. I recalled the final moment in the courtroom, when Daniel screamed that I'd ruined him. The truth was, he ruined himself, and I simply added a pinch of spice to make his drama perfect. I laughed alone on the quiet street, a sharp, ironic line ringing in my head. He wanted a steamy night, and I gave him one for real. Thank you all for listening to this spicy story. If you enjoyed it, please hit subscribe to join me on this journey. See you in the next video, where I'll bring you even more dramatic and surprising stories.